This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, July 19th from Sarasota, Florida. I'm Seth Johnson.
From Reynoldsburg, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast all about home automation, home technology.
Stickers? I don't know.
We've got it all.
Oh, yeah. Exciting week. Exciting week.
Yeah, so welcome from the past, I guess. We pre-recorded this episode. We have a really cool interview with Zach Evensen. He's a sales enablement over at Amp Lighting. And TJ, you met with him during your training at Amp and asked him to come on this podcast, and he did. So I don't know, like, what was your experience, I guess, training in Florida, besides it being hot?
Yeah, well, definitely really hot and miserable traffic because we stayed in Orlando.
Oh, that's awesome.
And drove back and forth, which was like 4 hours on the way back one time. So that part was not fun. But that was my fault. That wasn't Amp's fault. No, so I've bought some products from Amp for the past, I think 2 or 3 years now. I don't know how I found them, probably just a Google search. And I found them a couple of years ago. I've done a lot of projects with them. I've always been happy with the quality and everything. But I've never had any formal training on landscape lighting. And so this 6 months ago, 9 months ago, somewhere around there, I got notified that they actually did in-person training. And so it was a perfect opportunity to do some landscape lighting training, actually learn about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it a certain way and how you would design for it. And that's where I met Zach and a couple others down there and kind of got the lay of the land and got to see the facility and learn how to design landscape lighting and what to do and best practices and all that good stuff. So really good training. I think it's a great company. They always ship things super quick, which I think is very important for any company. But literally, if I place an order, I don't know, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, it's shipped by 5 still.
Nice.
So they're just lightning fast with that. So pretty happy with the product and the company so far. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about landscape lighting. We've talked about it a little bit on and off over the past couple months with, the LifeX lights and me doing my fence project and all that good stuff. So I thought it was definitely a worthwhile interview and good to have that little extra insight into it.
Yeah, just a little outside of what we normally talk about. Home automation focus, the home assistant focus, the YAML focus. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation. And, just to kind of sit and get a little bit more information about a different product. So I guess with that, let's go ahead and jump into the interview with Zach Evensen with Amp Lighting. Hey, Zach, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Seth. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Anytime. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Amp Lighting and what you guys do over there. But first, I just want to talk about you, what your background is and how you got involved in your particular industry.
Great. Yeah. So I started with Amp Lighting 8 years ago. And, I really started from the bottom. I got a position in the warehouse and kind of worked my way into a customer support position. And just talking to all these people, it got me so interested. And then you start seeing the projects, the photos, the after effect. And really my passion just grew. So I got more interested. And then I became, a product specialist where I was teaching some of our internal staff on, the products and the workings of a landscape lighting system. Excelled into an account manager position where I started, coaching more directly and intimately with franchises and larger businesses. And then kind of moved my way into a sales enablement role where, I'm teaching the internal team, certain methodologies, best practices, and helping create tools to help them sell better, like our design services and, the training center. So it's been really kind of a journey.
Probably,
I really,
the tech support side of things probably really helps.
Oh, yes.
You get to see all the problems and then you're like, hey, don't do this. And if you get to train everybody and tell them how not to do that, then they don't see them anymore. So that's great.
I've heard the gambit of the good, the bad, the ugly. So, you see a lot, you see it all. I did some returns for a little while too. So you get to see the product come back, you get to break it open. So you end up learning a lot as you kind of progress through, these other roles in the company.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Zach. I actually met you a couple months ago when Nicole and I came down and we did the in-person training there outside of Tampa. So that was a really informative class and everything, and I was glad to do that. Can you give us an overview of Amp Lighting and what's the mission for the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so Amp Lighting was truly founded with, our contractors in mind, our customer base. We started back in 2019. And since then, we've grown to be the largest factory direct lighting manufacturer in the nation. So, one thing that we wanted to do, we wanted to provide the highest quality outdoor lighting fixtures and LEDs at a reasonable cost, right? Readily available and not extremely expensive, brass fixtures that have typically been on the market, and a closed market as well, right? So many layers of distribution. So we wanted to break that. We wanted to make it, very available to our customer base. And at the heart of it, we want to be able to provide the best experience and products, so much so that our customers become the best advocates. And I feel like we've really kind of stayed true to that mission statement in doing so.
So AMP is primarily sold, I guess, through dealer partners, like DJ went to do training, and he's now a dealer for Amp Lighting.
Well, so no, not really. So we've actually broken down the walls of distribution. So
Okay.
You used to have to go to a Site One or one of these big distributors to get your lighting materials, your equipment. We saw that as a big hurdle for a lot of people, and so we decided to go direct to the consumer, so direct to the pro, the installer, and the business owner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so you can sign up with an account on amplighting.com, and after you go through the application process, you can start purchasing. So it's a streamlined way, and it breaks down some of those barriers, which helps us keep the cost down.
And that's personally what I like too. I like just being able to buy directly from the company, especially when you have like a nice website. There's some companies out there that sell directly to the dealer, but the website is the most awful thing I've ever used. Not saying clips or anything. So I mean, I appreciate that, being able to just buy products, and you guys are pretty good with what you do. So
thank you. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's something that we take pride in. We want to make sure that people are out there able to install professionally made equipment for a reasonable price, because a lot of people are dealing with economic issues, financial issues, and that's just more barriers to entry at that point. So if we can make affordable products reasonably that would work really well, it's just going to benefit everybody.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Our makeup on our podcast here is there's a lot of what I would consider like traditional AV dealers, like TJ or like the CDS based dealers, and there's a ton of DIY, what I would say DIY pros out there who are probably as doing AV installs isn't their day job, but Gavin's probably one of them. Like, I think that he could probably slide right over into a custom integration business and run circles over around many of them, or just fit right in. Like he's pretty advanced. And then we have people who listen who are just interested in home technology in general. But I guess from that perspective, like why would landscape lighting be an important technology for homeowners? Like what I only have a couple lights hanging out outside. Those little horrible. I hate them. They're those horrible.
Don't say solar.
They are. They're the ring ones.
Oh man.
So I do not like them. But like why are I guess besides the envy factor for me, like driving by and seeing somebody's house lit up at night, what benefit I guess would any homeowner get from a landscape lighting?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Landscape lighting, to me, and I'm sure to others, has a lot of benefits. So, and especially for those who actually enjoy their homes, they're spending, a lot of their time at home. Mm-hmm. And, really we have to look at it like, people's homes are typically their largest investment, right? So having a professionally designed lighting system not only allows you to show off the investment, right? There's some prestige to it. But it also helps provide security at night for your loved ones, right? So, it's coming home, you had a kiddo, late night baseball game. It's feeling safe pulling into your driveway after that. It's going in and letting the dog out back and not having to worry about FIDA. And I've seen so many people spend tens of thousands of dollars on renovations or remodels, and they can't use it at night. They didn't put lighting in their pergola. They didn't put the hardscape lighting around their fire pit, right? And their seating areas. So, you spent all this money to just enjoy it for part of the day, and half the day you're at work. So what you're doing is you're opening up these spaces, you're providing security, you're providing additional value. There are studies that say it does help increase, home value to a certain degree. And so you're packing all of these benefits in, to a single affordable system for the most part. So yeah, no, it's none of that. The cherry on top is it looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just kind of like we have like a mixed neighborhood. It's one of the older, I guess it's like one of the first planned communities in the nation-ish, or at least done in Florida, where it was like in the 50s and they were kind of rolling out these like particular Florida homes, your traditional Florida home.
Right.
And there were a lot built over, a 10, 15-year period. They all look mostly the same. There's some variances in them, all done by the same handful of builders, I'm sure. But then there were some lots that were left open, and those later in the years, in 2006, 2009, that space, they started to get newer homes built on them. And when you drive by those, they're all lit up because it was like, you have all these dark homes from the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
And you drive by those and man, they look really nice. It's like,
you see the difference.
Yeah, you do.
Well, yeah, it's just much more inviting. It's one of those things when you pull up to a house with landscape lighting, it just feels like you're supposed to be there. And when you pull up to one with no lighting outside, it's like, am I supposed to be here right now? Like, what's going to happen?
Am I breaking in?
Especially if you're in Florida, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, you got to be careful.
It's the trick or treat effect, I guess. Yeah. I know over the years, I mean, spanning from the 1950s to the 2000s, there have been a ton of different technologies that have been used for landscape lighting. What we're seeing in the house right now is a bit, the LED revolution, and LED technology is coming in place. Like, how is that affecting landscape lighting right now? What's going on with that?
Oh yeah,
because you're not using incandescents anymore.
No, I mean, there are actually, I think they're putting laws in place to ban the sale of incandescents. So, in the pool industry, I know is a big one that's getting hit with that, where, they can't even sell an incandescent light anymore. So, what do you do with those? But, LEDs in themselves, LED technology has advanced dramatically since its early introduction even. So most LEDs themselves generate a fraction of the amount of energy an incandescent or a halogen would produce. And so we're looking at around 5 times less consumption compared to those counterparts. On top of that, you get different color options, you get dimming capability, and all the tools that you need to create like a custom mood or setting with LEDs. So we can go to really warm, to really cool, to all the colors of the rainbow, and customize that experience for you. Whereas with, your incandescents and halogens, you're stuck with your whites essentially.
Right. Yeah. Whatever color you locked in at when you bought the lamps, didn't go in there. Well, you mentioned the different color, like RGB ones, like going, different colors, painting colors on your house. Is that becoming a bigger deal? Are you seeing that, or is it still like more of a specialty type thing?
It's definitely becoming more popular. And I like having a classic look 99% of the time. But man, is it cool when we have your favorite sports team or a holiday, an event where you can custom tune, your color scheme to fit that feel and environment. We're seeing a lot more of our designs coming in. So with our design service, we see a lot of projects come in, and we're seeing more and more requesting color options, at least as a secondary choice for, their customers. And, with technology now, you get really good saturation, high vivid colors, and you could really make it, pop and create that wow effect. Not only that, I mean, who wants to, get on a ladder for the holidays and hang Christmas lights or, knock it out with your landscape lighting system, and you never have to get on a ladder again.
Yeah, I think the approach there for me, we have some RGB landscape lights outside, but it's only our pathway lights, and the rest of the lights are just regular, 4,000 or 3,000K, whatever they're at.
Yeah.
But I like having the mixture in there because you can, like you said, when it's around the holidays or something like that, throw some color up there, and that way you don't have to like worry about it. Or if you're like hosting a party or something, that's how you can identify your house. Look for the red lights going up the sidewalk or something like that. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with that out there. So it's interesting to see that it's becoming more popular.
Yeah. I mean, last Halloween, we have our Control Pro RGBs, and, I had them all out there. I had a purple and red. And then in the kind of like alleyway towards my front door, I had this like flashing mode on. So like it really kind of tied in the whole effect and made it look super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of people listening, maybe not a lot to our podcast specifically, but definitely a lot of people I interact with on a daily basis. They just don't understand why somebody would do hardwired landscape lighting, right? They'll go out to Amazon or Home Depot or whatever, and they'll buy solar lights for $5 each or whatever, and they'll throw them in there, and eventually they'll probably break or they just won't be good quality. And they may look to actually get some good quality landscape lighting installed. What does the typical installation process for landscape lighting look like, and what should a homeowner expect?
Yeah, I mean, and I'd like to say that a good installation process for a landscape lighting system starts with with a design. Really, walking the customer through, talking to them, understanding the needs, and that'll ultimately help determine the installation as a whole. But installations could be simple or really complex, obviously, depending on, the home, the landscaping and all that good stuff. If we're dealing with larger properties, more spaces, things could definitely get kind of complex. But let's just use a average single family home as an example. You mount your transformer to the side of the home or to a post, plug it in just like a TV would plug in. And we want to make sure that, we're up to code and away from certain items or surfaces. We run, multiple transformers in 10 cases, depending on, accessibility. Then, really the main part, the hardest part is trenching the wire. So, trenching down to code, which is 6 inches, making sure that we're, working around risks like, gas lines or fiber optics or, coax cables. We're not hitting those or banging into those. And then once we get our lines trenched and our transformer mounted, we just have to kind of anchor down our fixtures and make those connections. And, one thing that we always say is make a strong connection and make as few connections as possible. But after that, we want to go back at dusk, do our adjustments, fine tune the system, make sure everything's operating correctly. And that can take, up to 4 hours to 6 hours to multiple days in some cases to really get an entire system installed and fine tuned properly.
Yeah, I guess I would not have thought about that. Like going back and once you get everything set, yeah, of course it's light. You're going to have to look at it at night. You can't do it at noon. But yeah, to go back and like tune things out, make sure the lights are aimed in the right direction, that kind of thing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know you just mentioned like having a lighting design and kind of like ideas of what the customer's needs are. I thought on my house, I would like put a couple of lights out and it would look okay. And I put them in and they didn't look okay. So I took them down. But like, there's a lot of like, there's the technical side, which I think I can do because I can dig a hole 6 inches down, which is, turns out 5 inches deeper than they will bury your fiber line here in Florida.
That is so true. Yeah.
Like, when you said that, I just kind of laughed because I'm like, yeah, they don't do that. And then I can connect a transformer and I can mount it to code into the right spot and that kind of thing and put a switch on it or, automate it somehow. But what I can't do very well is the artistic side of this and make it look good after I've put all these things in. So like how it kind of applies to lighting design indoors too. Like I'm not very good at that, but I'm sure there are people who excel at that, right? How important is that getting that initial lighting design right when it comes to landscape lighting? Is it something that you can kind of, shoot from the hip with and then fix later when you're doing those adjustments? Or is it something you kind of have to nail right out the gate?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely shoot from the hip. And
oh, that's good.
And I always say,
It's perfect for Seth.
It's not going to look as great as it can look, but I like to say anything with a light on it looks better than one without, right? And so you can shoot from the hip and you're going to get something that looks better than it did more often than not. But having a good lighting design is everything for outdoor lighting, right? When we're talking architectural, when we're talking pathway, when we're talking accent and highlight, we're designing a system that not only you're enjoying as a homeowner and as the user, but also the public, right? We're illuminating an outdoor space that could be in some cases communal or publicly used. And so we want to make sure that our lighting design enhances the space to a degree that it doesn't intrude into the privacy or comfort of others, right? And so that goes into light pollution, dark sky areas, and things like that. So there are some layers and nuances to lighting design that go beyond just what looks good. It goes into taking others into consideration too, and your environment really.
It's funny you say that. I have an outdoor like lighting show DMX par light that I had to pick up for work because we were doing an integration. This guy called from Miami. He said, "Hey, I've got 30 of these on top of these 2 hotels, and they light up the roof at night. And there's a 60 between the 2 buildings. And for some reason, the product I had, the driver I wrote, didn't quite integrate well with that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy one. It's, $100 or something. I
Right.
shipped it from Amazon. It was something that he found on Amazon, and I got it in and started working on it. And then it just sat here, and I'm like, well, what do I use for it? So it's like Halloween. I plugged that thing in and washed the side of my house with like this purple light or whatever. A couple of days later, this nice lady came to my house and she's like, "Hey, there's a bright light that shines in my living room." And I'm like, "Oh, I know exactly where it is. It's right behind you." And she's like, no. It's on the side of your house. And she starts walking around to the other side of the house. And I'm like, "No, it's right here. This is," and it was amazing because the way that it was able to
bend around.
It seemed like it had to have been like magic light, but the amount of light that had to have been able to get to her house had to have been very minimal. But at night, it lit up her entire house purple, or living room purple. So whoops. But I moved it to another part where it was not going to affect anyone's home. But yeah, that light pollution is definitely kind of an issue between neighboring spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had designs change, over time, or things removed because of things like that. So it's just the little tiny things you don't think of, and you're like, man, this is going to look awesome. You turn it on and you feel like, the Griswold. So you gotta play it safe sometimes.
Well, just because it's funny too. We do we use a lot of plans and stuff like that. And most of the time it's like, I want to go out and see it in person, which obviously you can't do because you're in Florida, with all these designs and stuff you're doing. But it's one of those things that you still have to set eyes on it because you can't account for all those other variables all the time. Yeah. You have to be the trees and whatever else, they're just not always reflected properly. So it is one of those things that there are going to be changes, and that's fine.
Yeah. Having a site plan, like a 2D versus, actually seeing it live in person, or at least some photos, some images to help contrast some of the 2D from that. It makes a ton of difference. And, obviously, as you're designing, the more supporting details you have, the better it's going to turn out.
All right. So we are in the technology space here where we are used to updates breaking things, companies promising things that never get delivered, and all that kind of stuff that goes with technology. What should homeowners know about maintaining their landscape lighting? Is there anything that they need to do on a yearly basis or anything, drastic like that?
Yeah, I mean, maintenance is key for, anything that you want to keep lasting, a long time, right? And with the correct knowledge of the system, with the right tools, it's super easy to keep up with the lighting system. And, one of my tips that I recommend people to do is, once or twice a year, go around to your fixtures, clean the debris off the lenses, make sure you adjust the pitch, go around to the plant material that you have these illuminating, trim those up. Make sure that the fixture's not covered with leaves. But in terms of, maintaining your system, it's a pretty hardy and resilient system. There's not a lot of moving parts in a landscape lighting system. And so as long as you're ensuring that the fixtures aren't getting damaged or kicked over time, they're adjusted properly, and they're clean, you're going to get that system performing at its max, for the lifetime of that system.
That is one of those things that I really like about landscape lighting. And it's one of those things too, where it's, I don't understand why a lot of integrators haven't really caught on to landscape lighting. I think they're just like gluttons for punishment.
It's the digging, TJ. It's the digging.
Well, I know, but you can hire somebody for that. I mean, but it's just it's one of those things that pretty much once you install it, minus, cleaning it up and everything, you really don't have to touch it, which is nice. And that's a stark contrast for pretty much anything else that the home automation professionals install. So maybe that's why they don't like it. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, digging in a trench in the dirt and crawling in an attic is just as painful. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The attic worse. The attic is worse, I think.
ugh.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yes.
I see on your website that you have some Ring products that you group with transformers, mainly for power control and everything. Is there? Do you guys have some kind of partnership there? And what other things in the smart home space are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did partner with Ring earlier this year. I think maybe late last year. What we've been doing with them is really helping bring people that stepping stone to automation with their lighting systems with a very comfortable name, right? So we're using a name that's very familiar. They've already used it with their doorbells, with their motion sensors, with their security cameras. And so integrating this into, the Ring ecosystem has been pretty successful. It's like I said, it's very familiar. So people don't have a hard time, plugging it in, scanning the barcodes and going through that process.
I mean, odds are they probably already have the doorbell and have the account, and this is
exactly
a pretty easy
the bridge, and they're just plugging and playing.
Yeah.
At that point. So that has been a pretty cool partnership, and we've seen the benefits and some of the downsides to certain automation systems and how they incorporate into the home. And that's something we're actually, like I said, it's a stepping stone. So we've been working on our own smart technology and our own smart system that we are going to be implementing, very soon. I don't have dates or anything like that, which I wish I had, because man, I'd love to be able to kind of hang that carrot. But that's something that we're working on. We're going to bring in, and we're going to be using all the latest, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth technologies with that system. And so you're going to see an enhancement in, landscape lighting, smart technology very soon.
Yeah, that's always good to hear. I mean, it's not like you need very much with it. Most of the time, like you said, most every night, having the lights turn on, as much as I do with my lights, and have ever done with any of my clients' lights, when we integrated with an automation system, I would kick the lights on at sunset, and make sure that they were on somewhere an hour before sunrise, something like that.
Right.
And then if there were any other automations, like if it's midnight or something and the lights are off and the gate opens, turn the lights on, path lights and that kind of thing. Those types of little small automations go a long way and put that system to use, and then also turn it off when you don't need to waste the electricity or whatever. And I've had clients do full Lutron integrated landscape lighting systems where the lighting designer was in charge of the levels, like the outdoor lighting design was, all dictated, and there's levels for each light that go out, and it's all incandescent lamps, crazy stuff.
It can get very involved. I mean, the amount of automation that you can truly do, and that has been done to, dumb systems. So, we're talking about people buying boards and actually, integrating them into the transformers, cabinet and controlling them that way with relays. And I mean, you could do a bunch of crazy stuff if you have the knowledge of the tools.
Right.
We want to make something that's so easy. We want to make something that you pick up and it's just natural. It feels good in your hand and everything makes sense. And I think that's really what we're headed towards.
Cool.
Because if you can't pick something up and you want to use it, you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact.
But I think now's a good time to do kind of something in the smart landscape lighting, because there's a lot of companies out there like Philips Hue and Govee and all these other companies that are coming out with some kind of product. And I think we're going to start, as dealers, we're going to start seeing more requests for it.
Yeah.
Whenever these consumer brands come out with stuff like this, like a video doorbell or floodlight camera or something, the consumer sees that and they want that. And so they're going to buy it. It's either they're going to buy it from you or somebody else at that point. So
yeah. They set the norm at that point. Now people have that expectation. And so now, you need basically a system for every tier of customer. You have the customer that wants full automation. You have the customer that's like, I just want to flip a switch and turn it on and off, and you're going to have to be able to meet everyone's needs in between.
Yeah, for me, the easiest upsell with landscape lighting is just the smart plug.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you can explain to somebody for whatever, $30 to $50 that they don't have to go out to their mechanical timer and adjust it 12 times a year, people love that. So easy upsell for most people.
You're out cruising in the Bahamas, you could turn your lights on for your family members coming to check on the dog. It's nice.
Absolutely. What is your favorite landscape lighting device? Do you have a favorite? We won't tell.
Oh yeah, you got to keep it a secret. So
Won't tell the other ones.
they get pretty
They get jealous.
yeah. Some right now it has to be the RF series. So we recently introduced our RF series, which is radio frequency. Our previous fixtures all worked off of IR for color changing and dimming capabilities. And so with the new RF stuff, we're getting increased range. I can create zones. So in my backyard, I have my path lights on, one zone, and I have all my spots on different zones. And it makes it really easy for me to go and just change color. I'll find myself in my backyard. It was raining the other night. I was out back having a drink with my partner, and we were just sitting there just doing different color schemes just to kind of play around with it. So right now, that's probably my favorite because of the flexibility and the versatility of it right now. And again, that's again another stepping stone towards our smart, just having more zoning capability and control with that remote.
Oh, that's cool. So it uses RF to go from when you say change colors, is it RGB or is it just the the CCT color?
Oh yeah, so it's RGBW. So it's RGB CW. Actually, my apologies, and that's something it's cool to warm, and so. Red, green, blue, white, cool to warm. So we have 2200 Kelvin, 3000 Kelvin, 2700 Kelvin, 4000 Kelvin that can kind of go through and quick changes. So you can switch very easily.
Depends on the mood that you want outside. If you want it relaxed or if you want to make it bright. Yeah.
Yeah. You have your 4000 to make, kind of like that security, the bright white, very clear. And then you have your, all the way down to 22 where you're kind of creating the mood where it's more intimate. Mm-hmm. And you have the flexibility to change that, very, very quickly.
Do you have a favorite smart home technology product? Can be anything. Doesn't have to be in the lighting. Can be anything.
You guys are gonna hate me.
Okay.
I use Google Home.
Okay.
For my automation. Right. Is that a respectable?
That's fine.
It works. It works for me. I basically have my Google my Nest, and I have my little security cameras, and I don't think I'm using automation right. I think my partner does more so. 'Cause, they got all the lights and everything, and I had to get sent an invitation because I couldn't turn the lights on. So I need her to school me up on how she does it all because she's a whiz.
Yeah, I don't think you need to worry about. Like I'm in the same boat, right? So like I will do almost the bare minimum work, I guess, to get the lighting. Like I'll do the hard work to get it installed, right? I'll take apart
hardware's the fun part,
the wall switch, yeah,
true, yeah.
And then it comes to like the crazy over the top, what I would call like lifestyle programming, where you're doing things based on time of day or motion sensing or presence detection,
circadian rhythm. Yeah.
I'm out. Like I don't. I mean, I think that stuff is really cool and nice to do. I just don't want to do it, and I don't have the patience anymore to do it. So, like in my house, if I get a light to come on with a motion sensor, I'm really happy about that because that was the goal. But I'm not going to go too much further unless there's some complaints from the others in the house of like, oh, this light doesn't turn on or off at the certain times. Like I'll go troubleshoot that.
Keep the peace.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I definitely agree with you on like, well, you just do what makes you happy, I guess is where I would go with that. Like
it gets the job done. I'll tell you that. And it, that was my introduction to automation. Truly, I got into my home and kind of came with all these devices. And so I started plugging and playing, and it's actually been, quite responsive. So I appreciate it.
One of us on the show, not to be named, he's also not here. He's very prolific in all of the custom little tweaks and changes he's made into his house. Like so much so it's like he has made a custom system that is probably beyond most of the custom installs that I've seen with all DIY products, like Home Assistant the whole way, and anything and everything you can imagine done. He has probably done or looked into it or figured out a way to kind of like make it work in there. Yeah. And it works. It really does. Like, but it's, I guess kind of also that's my day job. So like, I
don't want to do that when I get home.
Right. I don't want to be the CTO anymore. Like I'm done.
No,
so
it's not fun. Yeah. To have people at work telling you all day the stuff's not working, then come home to have people tell you the stuff's not working. It's not ideal.
Like Groundhog Day. Yeah.
you just kind of aim for the bare minimum, and if it, I do stuff like Halloween and stuff. I'll put in stuff like that. But yeah,
How do you wake up every day?
Yeah, exactly. I just don't go to sleep the night before. That's how.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're probably getting close on our time here, but I just kind of want to ask what do you see as like, you kind of hinted at it, but like, what do you see as like big in the lighting landscape industry, like coming up in the next 5 to 10 years that you're excited about? Like what will amp lighting be doing or moving towards that you're going to see? Like, maybe everybody has already kind of moved into the LED space, right? Or moved away from the incandescent lamps because it's illegal to buy, right? But like, right. Maybe what's next? What do you see on the horizon in the industry?
Well, I can't really speak for the industry as a whole. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that are out there. I mean, we're talking laser projection LEDs. The circadian rhythm LEDs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things out there that, are either lifestyle changers or, help benefit, different aspects of our life, like horticulture. So there's so much out there that LEDs are helping enhance in our everyday life. But, for AMP in itself, we've just introduced our design services, which is going to get kind of paired or married with a design app, where you can actually design lighting systems live on scene with your customers if you'd like to. And then our training center. So, bringing individuals in, like-minded folks, just, networking, learning, teaching, and really coming together as a community. That's going to be coming and getting bigger and better as we go. And then of course our smart lighting. So our smart lighting is coming out very soon. That's going to be a huge game changer, not only for the industry with it being the latest and greatest technology that we're introducing, but it also help us learn more about, what you guys do and be closer to, professionals in your industry and make more of a marriage in that community also. So it's cool. There's a lot of big things coming and I'm super excited to be part of it.
If anybody's interested in learning about those exciting developments or learning more about AMP or connecting with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go and visit the website, www.amplighting.com. They can look into, our training sessions, design services, our products. They can shoot us a call at 813-978-3900, or they can reach right out to me directly at zache@amplighting.com.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah, it's been awesome having you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
And that's the interview there. I want to thank Zach for coming on the show, taking time to chat with TJ and I. Again, Gavin wasn't there at the recording, but he's here now. Gavin, what'd you think? All questions asked.
Yeah,
right?
I was just listening. I was a fly on the wall in that interview. Just listening in. It's more for the pro space. So I know where I belong.
Yeah, this is fine. It was Gavin, in all fairness, hasn't heard the interview. he wasn't available at the time we had to record. So, but it was a good interview, I thought. And I've known a little bit about landscape lighting. My deficit in that product line definitely lies in the ability to make things look good, or at least know like what products, like TJ, when you did the fence thing, like, and you hung those lights around the fence, like you had an idea what product to go to and like hang on the fence. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. I didn't even think of that. But like knowing what products exist, I guess, and then what products do what, like I kind of lack that. So like, I just know that there's lights that can shine in my house and change different colors, and that's about it.
Well, and I think it's so weird because I think it's one of those market segments that like integrators can easily get into. And like, it's very easy to learn on the go. Right. And so landscape lighting, for the most part, is very forgiving in the fact that you can basically just daisy chain all the wiring together. And so like, you can literally just move fixtures and add fixtures. And as long as you don't exceed the power requirements of the transformer or like the wire or anything like that, like you can easily add on and change. And so it's weird that I don't hear more integrators talking about landscape lighting. I think it's getting a little more popular. But I think it's one of those things where integrators like the technology side of it. They don't really care about the lighting side.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I think it's perfect to add to your business if you're already doing low voltage because the electricians don't want to touch it. And, there are landscape lighting and outdoor companies. But why not just do that while you're there?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're already there for the inside technology. Why not in the lighting and in hooking up and doing all that stuff? Like, it's low voltage. You already have the license for it probably. So yeah, why not? And also, like, alongside the speakers and speaker wire that you're already doing for a lot of these, speakers, outdoor speaker systems kind of wire up exactly the same these days, especially with 70 volt.
Mm-hmm.
You're daisy chaining those off of a single run, or just like pulling a run and pulling off that. In very much the way that these would work. Same thing with the power, same thing with the wire. Like, it's all, physics and math and stuff that you have to know. But if you can do an outdoor speaker system, you can probably do, one of these lighting systems and get that set up and make the outdoors look pretty good for your client. So I don't know, like I kind of want to do some stuff in my yard. One of these days I'll get to it. My problem is I don't have any like elevation in my yard, right? I've got the last tree, I guess, the only tree that we had kind of like died out because it was ancient and old and we had to cut it down. And so I've got no trees in my yard. Like, my neighbors have all the trees. But our yard is fairly open and I haven't gone and planted any tree yet. I probably should do that one of these days, but there's no like how you shine the lights up into the trees and they look real nice. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. Like, 'cause I've got, basically my house and a bunch of grass that's overgrown right now. And I don't know how you light that.
Well, that's my problem too, is like the front of our house, we don't have anything. The previous homeowner chopped down the tree that was in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's literally just the house. And so we constructed like a small garden bed this year off to the side where the old tree was, because just literally nothing grows there because of the old roots and everything. And so we put a path light in there to kind of illuminate that. And then we just have the LifeX lights going up the sidewalk. And that was at least nice enough to like give it some kind of light at nighttime. But really the focus has been the backyard. So I haven't really done much to the front yard.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, again, all the links and topics we'll have over in our show notes, HomeTech.fm/480 or 490. If you're interested in checking out amp lighting, we'll have links there too. But that's going to wrap up the show this week. We do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, and especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out here on the show, but every single pledge gets you a private invite to our Slack chat, the hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every single day in there and chat about the latest news and goings on. Amazon Prime Day finds and steals and deals. You can find all that stuff in there too. If you want to help out but can't support the show financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review or positive rating in the podcast app of your choice to help others find the show. That's going to wrap up another week here on HomeTech. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Till next time.
Take care. We're going to have a lot of upset listeners that, they're going to write in saying they didn't hear enough from me this week.
Probably.
Probably get more listeners that week.
Whatever.